I YouTube is too hard for me to keep up with. Like, I've been looking for help with my YouTube channel for a while now, and I've been looking for like the right help with my YouTube channel it's just been too hard for me to keep up with. So I am not signed with them yet, but I am in the talks with a management company who can help me with YouTube management. So we already had 2 calls. We have another call on Tuesday, but my main goal in signing with them would be for them to help manage my YouTube channels. So they would help, and also Mnox, my mod Mnox, he's been working on downloading all my VODs and uploading them to my VOD channel. But then I think having a YouTube management company help me with my YouTube, they'll help me with thumbnails, releasing, editing, and all that stuff as well. So we should start the YouTube up again. It's not that I don't want to make videos, it's not that I don't want to post on YouTube, it's that like I cannot keep up with it. Like, sure, I can have random bursts of energy and upload on my channel like for a week, but it's not like sustainable. So I've been looking for like a sustainable YouTube option for me. So hopefully if all goes well, I'll have a management to help me take over my YouTube channels and just push out content consistently for you guys. So they would actually work with my editors. So the editing style should be the same. What was I gonna say? It's just what was I gonna say? My brain is blanking. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's why I haven't been active on my YouTube. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I just know that even if I do things, I can't maintain it. I could have just like found a bunch of freelancers, but then that would require me to be in charge of all these freelancers, and I can't do that either because that's just like not sustainable. Like, I need someone to just like be in charge for me. So I think I found that. Hopefully all goes well. Yeah, hopefully all goes well, and you guys will have YouTube content soon, and I will have peace of mind. That would be lovely.
I actually recorded and released an older version of this release initially because as I saw multiple extremely concerning things unfolding all of a sudden recently, and I realized how extremely severe many lies being told about me clearly are, I felt an extreme sense of urgency to attempt to diffuse at least some of the worst of them as quickly as possible, in case there was something urgently extremely detrimental happening towards me behind the scenes, where a lack of response from me very quickly might have been abused as some kind of validation for some massive lie about me. But I definitely felt it was rushed. I didn't feel like I'd had enough time to really properly communicate everything I wanted to communicate with this release. I feel like it's too easy for people being malicious towards me to try to misrepresent what I'm trying to say and achieve here if I left that older version up and tried to just release something else as some kind of follow-up, which is why I ended up deleting the old version of this release and re-recording and uploading this new and more refined version that I feel is a better representation of what I'm trying to communicate and would be much more effective at more firmly establishing and demonstrating eternal, unwavering persistence with my integrity. That's the whole reason I even care about putting all this effort, making this podcast, and releasing anything on it in the first place. With that out of the way, the clip I just showed serves as the absolutely irrefutable evidence that everything I've been saying on this podcast is completely true. That clip is from one of Kimmy's most recent streams, barely 4 days after my 10th release on this podcast. For Kimmy to put so much weight all of a sudden on things I consider completely irrelevant and that she hasn't cared about for her nearly decade of a content creation career, to the point she's saying it'd finally give her peace of mind that she suddenly feels so in need of for some extremely strange reason, right after I put immense weight on the significance of her content in general, with my complete reluctance to give any of her friends or anyone else any attention with my efforts here. Clearly, my efforts with this podcast are being absolutely insanely, unacceptably, ridiculously, viciously, completely misrepresented, as if I've been trying to communicate that I want or need Kimmy trying harder to make more content in general, to feed some kind of strange obsession with her, or for content creation of my own, or to feel somehow liberated or empowered to react in some way I want to react, or do something I want to do in my life in general, which is all completely false. So there's clearly fully conscious and intentional massive narrative warping going on, as if my efforts on this podcast or in general are somehow dishonest and attempting to somehow achieve some ulterior motive, which would naturally come at the expense of the extremely firm integrity I've went to great lengths to establish. And instead of having any real respect for my feelings and position that I've repeated countless times, Kimmy just continues to purport the lies and participate in this massive cover-up of extremely serious crimes being committed against me, just like I've been saying has been happening. People have been running a massive smear campaign against me behind the scenes and relentlessly tried to gaslight me that I'm delusional for so many years, but I just objectively proved beyond any reasonable doubt to any even remotely reasonable and honest person that I'm not delusional at all. For anyone to suggest that this kind of behavior is a mere coincidence would be remarkably disingenuous, and there's absolutely no way I'm letting it slide. This kind of constant misrepresentation of my efforts certainly can't happen forever, and like I've said before, I'm not willing to tolerate it, and I'm not going to wait and let people deviously push blatantly, fully conscious and intentional massive misrepresentations of my efforts and life until the point some bigger lie harms me in a more serious way than all these lies about me already are and have been harming me for the last several years, especially knowing what kinds of extremely serious lies people have been purporting about me. It's not like I've lost the will to live or anything even close to that. I don't live my life in a way where I'd ever let anyone leave me in such a state, but I wouldn't say I'm okay. Far from it, in fact. I have immense self-control, so it probably doesn't really show online, and even less so offline. But I'm at constant, extremely deep unrest and feel extremely deeply unsettled about things as they are, and only much more increasingly so when I see things like what I saw in that clip I played in the beginning. I feel like my energy is being extremely brutally, completely violated in multiple ways, constantly. I feel extremely deeply hurt and in pain, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I feel unbelievably angry and sad and disappointed. I literally constantly feel like I'm being extremely brutally robbed of my life. I'm seriously left completely alone, hurt, sad, angry, disappointed, and extremely stressed out as I'm having to work on things, as I'm going down an extremely dark path of having a bunch of extremely serious enemies whose lives I have to destroy, while I really wish things could have turned out very differently and I got the relationship I've always wanted with Kimmy instead. And I have to fight so hard and spend so much of my time and energy to reveal the truth with this podcast, just so I can at least get my life back and be able to finally start actually using my energy to invest in improving my life again, like I did before my extreme misfortune of encountering these massive pieces of garbage in my existence. Instead of having to pour the vast majority of my time and energy every day into just defending myself against constant existential attacks from literal criminals trying to literally drive me insane and cause me to commit suicide so they can get away with the insane crimes they've committed and are still committing against me. Although I certainly need to make sure I'm establishing extremely firm boundaries so I can't endlessly get pushed around by extremely abusive and manipulative toxic psychopaths, I'm seriously never moving on from Kimmy, no matter what. I'm going above and beyond to reiterate this enough that nobody has any really viable excuse to believe otherwise. I'm seriously not just saying this. I'm seriously not just saying anything I say in this podcast. Everything I say here is extremely deep to me. It really is all completely true and all that deep. Just because I can be extremely tough, that doesn't mean I'm not hurting badly or I don't really care. I just know that nothing good can come of it for me if I deal with the pain in a really stupid way. Because despite how my enemies try to massively misrepresent me completely against my consent, I'm actually an extremely mature person. The reality of life, though, is that this reeking dumpster fire called Earth isn't a place where it matters nearly as much as it really should to be a genuinely, exceptionally mature, sincere, hardworking individual. At least that's certainly been my experience of life my entire life so far. I'm completely alone, and everyone from my past, both online and offline, has actually either not really cared to even get actually close to me, or if they did get close at all, they've been absolutely horrible to me, even though I was so good to all of them, and literally never even once backstabbed anyone. They're all massive liars and snakes. Again, anything anyone claims at all contradictory to what I'm saying in this podcast is lying fully knowingly and intentionally, and anyone not even seriously attempting directly communicating with me to confirm anything before taking decisive actions according to information they receive that's at all contradictory to what I'm saying in this podcast is irrefutably intentionally being extremely malicious towards me on top of that. If they're being presented with some kind of supposed evidence and not even seriously trying to come to me to confirm or deny it somehow and get my side of things and whatever evidence I might want to present to reveal things more clearly, that's clearly being extremely biased at the very least. And if they're just believing things as fact with very little to no real evidence of any real substance, that's even worse. You should never take gossip as fact. I certainly don't, never have, and never will. Since literally nobody at all is coming to me to try to get insight on anything, that means literally anything anyone's claiming about me at all different from what I'm saying on this podcast does not have even one person in the entire world actually trying to determine if it's true or not. They're literally just believing whatever they want to believe with no real consideration whatsoever for if it's at all actually true. And they definitely know it. And if they had even the slightest bit of doubt before, for whatever reason, they sure as hell are irrevocably, irrefutably, absolutely certain after this release. I'm not trying to or willing to tolerate leaving any at all reasonable room for doubt here, and I'm going to make absolutely certain that it shows extremely clearly. I am not a video editor of any kind for anyone except myself. I have never been a video editor of any kind for anyone except myself. I will never be, do not want to be, have never wanted to be, am not trying to be, and have never been trying to be a video editor of any kind for anyone except myself. I'm pretty certain at this point that there is at least one literally completely illegal contract out there that attempts to misrepresent the reality of my life as if to present this podcast as something I'm doing under contract in some capacity. I'm officially and legally bindingly formally declaring such as completely false. If you are in possession of any contract in contradiction with this assertion I'm officially making, and you do not immediately directly contact me and inform me of the details of it, and who criminally impersonated me and fabricated my supposed agreement to it, you are fully consciously and intentionally trying to cause extremely intense emotional distress and induce nervous shock in me, and also knowingly and intentionally, willfully, criminally attempting to limit my ability to speak completely freely and without fear of some kind of damage to my life under wrongful pretenses. And I will most certainly be taking legal action towards you regarding this matter in the future. I would have done so immediately, but the extremely brutal state that Kimmy's criminal behavior towards me has left my existence in means I can't even afford food or a place to sleep, much less a lawyer, which I've obviously made very apparent with what I've explicitly been saying in this podcast. But I will survive this, and I will get my hands on some money, and once I do, you will face legal repercussions for your contribution to these crimes against me, and you will regret fully, knowingly, and intentionally withholding information from me, and knowingly conspiring against me with an illegal contract. I'm telling you extremely clearly, in absolutely no uncertain terms, I've never even seen before in my life, much less at all consented to any of the terms of. I'm not employed by anyone in any capacity, and I'm not looking for a job either. I have game dev to do, and extremely dark threats of retribution to follow through on, one day at a time, one step at a time, if Kimmy's seriously not going to start treating me properly in a timely manner. My enemies seriously made the wrong decision choosing to go down an extremely dark path against me, if that's really what they're choosing. But I will never be a loser regardless. Even if they try joining my game server or trying to help me somehow with it at any point, I will ban them permanently as soon as I become aware of their presence, and I will expressly, publicly, decisively, thoroughly refuse any help from them they ever might seriously, even so much as attempt to provide for me in any way for any reason regardless. I'm not getting paid anything whatsoever, whether financial compensation or otherwise, for making the content I'm making for this podcast. I'm doing it entirely by myself and have no deals with anyone to make it. I also do not and have never consented to being demonized or antagonized by anyone, or anyone at all misrepresenting the reality of my life and what I'm doing. I never wanted to have to attack anyone. I've been basically forced to have to confront Kimmy publicly like this, because she blatantly, effectively, completely disrespects any even remote notion of having to accept she should be held accountable for her exceedingly toxic attitude and behavior towards me when I try any kind of communication with her privately, or even in a mailing list context, with dozens of influencers and even hundreds of third-party witnesses present. It doesn't even matter if I'm extremely mature and kind, or meaner, or try being polarizing, or anything. She just makes a complete mockery of it regardless, and acts as if she has any even remotely good reason to believe I'm on good terms with her or anyone else, when that literally couldn't be further from the truth in every single way, as things are and have been for many years now. So on top of doing game dev in silence as I prepare to decisively dominate in an irrefutable victory in this existential war being waged against me, I'm also going to take this opportunity to do the most to preemptively neutralize any attempts that may be made to misrepresent the reality of any bad faith actor's behavior in regards to my existence. I'm stating extremely clearly in absolutely no uncertain terms that I do not, have never, and will never consent to anyone or anything impersonating me in any capacity through any means, and certainly don't, never did, and never will consent to or tolerate receiving any kind of benefit from anyone trying to fake my death or fake me moving on from Kimmy at all in any way for any reason. I want it known that anyone at all attempting to in any way present or communicate any narrative in contradiction with these facts or anything else I've said in this podcast is acting fully consciously and intentionally entirely against my consent, wishes, and best interests, and should not be believed or responded to positively or rewarded in any way, shape, or form for their endeavors in doing so. This is to be taken as an official, legally binding statement. Like I've said, I've agreed to absolutely no deals or contracts, and that includes non-disclosure agreements. I certainly haven't agreed or consented at all to anything that would be at all in conflict with this official statement or anything else I've said in this podcast, nor do I have any desire, intention, willingness, or need to ever do so. This is not sponsored, and I'm establishing and maintaining the entirety of my position regarding everything I'm talking about on this podcast entirely of my own volition. I'd also like to take this opportunity to make sure I've made it abundantly clear that I know I'm winning and will ultimately decisively win this existential war one way or another. I'm not angry that I'm winning. I'm not, never have been, and never will be at all trying to sabotage, delay, prevent, or otherwise hinder my utmost prompt, utmost thorough, decisive achievement of victory in it. I also do not, have never, and will never be at all desiring of or benefiting from anyone else at all trying to sabotage, delay, prevent, or otherwise hinder my utmost prompt, utmost thorough, decisive achievement of victory in it. Anyone or anything at all attempting to communicate otherwise is fully consciously and intentionally lying about the truth with completely unrestrained malicious intent towards me, fully consciously and intentionally against my consent. And that's most certainly very much not at all okay with me and never was and never will be. I'm certainly extremely upset, but it's only because I haven't already achieved that decisive victory that's long overdue. And, once again, to make sure there's absolutely no room for any even remotely reasonable doubt, victory to me means either receiving that extremely loving, genuine, healthy relationship of intimate life partner commitment from Kimmy with direct communication from her, an extremely serious pursuit of meeting again in person and ultimately spending our lives together, or if she won't do that, every aspect of her life being brutally, completely destroyed and her losing her life in real life one way or another. Like I said, again, I infinitely prefer the former to happen. I'm genuinely completely open to it, and as unlikely as it seems, I genuinely believe it's still very possible. But if Kimmy is really such an unbelievably, extremely, exceedingly, unacceptably miserable, absolute loser, irredeemable, complete piece of garbage, that it's really not possible, then the latter absolutely unconditionally must occur. This is not, never was, and never will be at all up for negotiation, and I have absolutely unconditionally no desire or willingness whatsoever to ever debate it either. I want, deserve, and demand extremely thoroughly decisive results, and I'm most certainly not trying to wait. Whoever you are, if you're at all getting in my way, I genuinely despise you for doing so. as much as it's possible to utmost deeply despise someone. Understand that very clearly. I don't like you, even in the slightest. You're not doing anything good for me at all. You're most certainly not my friend. I'm most certainly not seeking or willing to allow you to force your help in any way on me at any point in time, ever. And I sure as hell don't have any contracts or deals or agreements with you, whether explicit or implicitly understood. I'm explicitly rejecting any even remote notion of ever engaging in such things without the kind of relationship I want and deserve with Kimmy being first and foremost extremely clearly, irrefutably understood and established on a private and public level. And if that's really never happening, then you're seriously among my worst enemies for what you're doing, and that's seriously never changing. Get out of my way immediately, or it's not going to end well for you, and I genuinely won't care. You'd best believe me when I say I'm seriously not trying to wait even a moment longer. I absolutely mean what I'm saying. Understand that very well. If you think I'm being fake about anything, you're just wrong, and you should be expecting to only continue to be proven wrong by me every day. There's absolutely nothing that's actually at all objectively valid evidence of your delusional beliefs about me that you try to extremely pathetically justify with your insane lies and extremely devious abusive behavior towards me. If you're among the extremely disrespectful pieces of trash trying to treat me like I don't deserve to be taken seriously and treated according to what I'm clearly saying in absolutely no uncertain terms, you'll come to more than just regret it, and I'll make absolutely certain of that. I really have far better things to do than entertain your unbelievably unhealthy obsession with drama. I was never some degenerate trying to make a name for myself with manipulation. I've always been extremely real, clearly too real for scumbags like you to handle. And you live so ridiculously in denial, and you think that makes you powerful. No, it just makes you weak and pathetic. Get it right, losers. Just because I'm not currently actively pursuing taking legal action against all of you myself and having professional investigations done on the slander and impersonation being done of me, that doesn't mean I'm never going to do so. Whatever garbage you think you can lie about me to try to fabricate evidence, you're hallucinating. You're going to try to leverage against me abusively to try to force me to shut up or try to negate the reality I'm exposing with my efforts here. I'm going to force you to have to present it publicly and try to seriously attack me with it in a blatantly incriminating way. Even if I'm ever silent, don't think I'm not still paying careful attention. Don't think I'm not still meticulously collecting evidence. Part of thoroughly destroying Kimmy's life, if she's going to push me down that path, pretty much certainly will include taking legal action against her in the future for what she would have irrefutably, irrevocably proven was extreme abuse, if she's seriously going to push me away the way she is right now. Any room for any even remotely plausible deniability is very quickly being eliminated through Kimmy's own actions and extremely unhinged, insane reluctance to properly communicate with me and actually act like an at-all decent human being towards me. I'm seriously going to become your worst nightmare and force you to have to try to lie so badly and take it so stupidly far and try so meticulously to prove you're garbage until I manage to prove you're the scumbags you are. And then not only is Kimmy going to have a serious problem and have her life destroyed on multiple levels, along with whoever was stupid enough to facilitate her abandoning me for them, but I'm going to destroy your lives too. You really think I won't? You really don't know who you're dealing with. I'd feel sorry for you if you weren't such unbelievably demonic psychopaths, not worthy of even the slightest bit of pity or mercy, for so extremely seriously literally trying to drive me to suicide to cover up how horrible you really are. You think this is something someone ever moves on from? Many extremely influential people in the world, especially people in a highly relevant industry to that suitable for a skill set I've developed since childhood, seriously tried to slander and criminally impersonate me with absolutely unconditional, unrestrained, malicious intent, intended to literally drive me insane and destroy and end my life for their extremely selfish gain, obviously fully knowingly and intentionally entirely against my consent. You think I'll ever let you force me to be your friend as you seriously deny me of ever having a proper relationship with the person I'll genuinely forever consider the love of my life? You think you're going to bully and abuse me into validating your garbage warped narratives as if I deserve this or I'm better off trying to fit in with your trash extreme toxicity instead of being myself? I'll show you a whole new definition of mistake that you never imagined existed. You unbelievably pathetic filth must already feel like it was a mistake your parents ever gave birth to you for you to be such pathetic scum and be able to live with yourselves. But clearly you don't recognize how much of a mistake you really are if you seriously are so remarkably exceedingly selfish that you seriously want to so extremely severely compromise the massive overall collective benefit of the human species for your own extremely disgusting, short-sighted, selfish gain. You're clearly not competent enough to even comprehend my words properly, and you clearly are so exceedingly, unbelievably arrogant, inconsiderate, selfish, and predatorily, psychotically cruel that you don't give a damn to even attempt to communicate properly with me or treat me with even remotely adequate respect. So I guess you're really going to have to find out the hard way and suffer after it's already too late for you to ever even remotely redeem yourselves, not just on a personal level to me, but even on the world stage. You so disgustingly abuse your reputations within to try to facilitate the horrible crimes you're committing against me. All that being said, I'm going to take a bit of a different approach with this release than just brutally calling out how horrible the world is being to me and exposing why humanity thoroughly deserves me losing any bit of faith in it I could ever possibly have, and never even considering being open to romantic relations or even friendship with anyone ever again. Especially since I feel I've already done that rather well with the last 10 releases on this podcast. This time, I want to have a heart-to-heart directed at Kimmy. I guess it's futile to try to talk sense into Kimmy when her ego's so massive she could literally have her demise staring her right in the face, but she's too prideful and selfish and short-sighted and spoiled and delusional to act like an even remotely decent and sane human being, no matter how mature and sane and loving I am. But I might as well open my heart up one very last time before truly, permanently, irrevocably, unconditionally, unapologetically, rightfully, thoroughly giving up on love and humanity and any even remote desire or willingness to tolerate any capacity of vulnerable or close human connection ever again. Because unless Kimmy actually starts taking this seriously and showing me the love and respect I deserve from her and directly communicating with me properly in a timely manner, that's actually what's going to happen, absolutely unconditionally, and there's really going to be no turning back from that for anyone. Kimmy, I don't know exactly how much of what I'm about to say is stuff you already know, or maybe assume, or maybe believe very differently from, or what. But it really doesn't matter either way. I mean it all regardless. I really do. And as serious as I am about things getting really dark if you push me there, I really don't want you to obsess over that as if it's what I want to happen, because it really isn't. So don't overthink or get hung up on how you saw things before or what negative stuff you've been thinking or feeling, okay? I'd really appreciate if you try your best to keep an open mind and open heart about what I'm saying here right now, and just see how it makes you feel without drowning in guilt and shame and fear and all those kind of negative emotions you're probably feeling deep inside right now. I really am and have always been extremely serious about you. I've tolerated this back and forth for many years now, and I know you've put me through a lot. I've never enjoyed this whole chasing and running thing, but I was never dealing with it for fun in the first place anyways. I've told you this multiple times before, and I was always being honest. I'm really not trying to push you away or hurt you or make you feel attacked, but you need to face the truth or it's going to hurt you extremely badly later. I'm telling you the truth because I genuinely care about you a lot, even despite how horrible you've been to me so far. But I'm also not trying to let you make a joke out of my feelings and existence and destroy my life, tormenting me with the possibility of a healthy connection with you that isn't real. I'm not saying that's the case. I certainly hope the potential I see between us is very real and you see it too. I'm really doing my best to try to help you see it and feel secure enough in it to choose to embrace it like I'm doing instead of running away. But I won't and shouldn't tolerate you endlessly presenting the possibility it's real and seeing me put so much love and care and positive energy into it while you and others are doing extremely shady things and massively misrepresenting the reality of my life and yet never taking any serious action that actually shows you being serious and capable of taking this connection in a positive direction. And I've never even once said or done anything that really should even suggest otherwise to anyone. That's not me being mean or fake or toxic. That's literally just me having real self-respect and integrity and being honest. And I'm literally trying to push you to treat yourself and others with the self-respect I believe you deserve to have, even if you don't believe you deserve it. I know nobody ever has or will make me feel the way you do, and I'm pretty sure the same is true for you about me. I know we'll be way happier with each other than we could ever be with anyone else. You're really not doing me, yourself, or anyone else any favors being so cold and distant with me and pushing me away. I really don't want to have to live without you, but if you're seriously just going to prove all the extremely harsh things I've said about you are all completely true, and you're not even showing a real sign of even possibly realistically growing in a positive direction, then I seriously have to destroy you at all costs, absolutely unconditionally one way or another, because I've seriously never been trying to sacrifice my life for your or anyone else's comfort, and it's absolutely ridiculous for you or anyone else to try to claim or act like I'm at all a bad person for that. Listen, I'm seriously going to touch myself to your incomparably sexy, perfect body frequently for the rest of my life regardless. I really don't care if people think I'm weird or creepy or whatever. Everyone's weird to some extent. I'm just self-assured enough not to feel the need to be desperately trying to hide my weirdness to fit into some extremely broken society that literally normalizes and blatantly rewards being mentally ill and abusive. As far as I'll ever be concerned, anyone being seriously toxic to me about that is just really jealous because they're pathetic and too much of a coward and weakling to be like me. But look, I'm really not just trying to make you feel bad. I can understand if my personality and power intimidates you, Kimmy, but I really don't want you to live a pathetic and weak and miserable existence where you're denying or holding back from embracing the feelings for me that you've acted for the last several years like you have. I don't enjoy terrifying you. I really don't. I really wish you'd feel safe enough with me to open up more and have the heart-to-heart conversations with me you really need in your life. But it's not for me to decide if you actually care about your life and want to live a long and happy and healthy life or not. That decision is for you and you alone to make. And you're making it whether you like it or not. Right now. And don't try to twist what I'm trying to say. I'm most certainly not telling you that you can act however you want and be as horrible to me as you want, and you shouldn't be scared. No, you should be much more scared of treating me so extremely horribly than your actions demonstrate you ever being. You should be absolutely mortified of treating me so unbelievably, unacceptably horribly as you are right now, and that doesn't make me a bad person at all. I absolutely, unapologetically, thoroughly refuse to validate and comfort you for seeming to just want to continue your abuse and fakeness and toxicity and extremely narcissistic, psychotic attitude and behavior towards me. Don't try to go and do whatever the hell you want and abandon me, in reality, knowingly and intentionally, completely against my consent and best interests, and then act like a victim and try to act like you had any good reason to believe I was ever trying to push you to do so, as if I should be trying to ease your fears of extremely detrimental repercussions to your existence for acting this way, or as if I'm being toxic and refusing to ease your fears, as if you're treating me how I want and I'm getting some kind of twisted, disgusting pleasure seeing you anxious, or as if it's some bit of content that I'm cooperating with, you pretending to be at my expense. No. Hell no. I've made it abundantly clear every step of the way that I was doing everything in my power to prevent you from abandoning me or even just pushing me away in any capacity. I literally couldn't have been trying harder to be acting in a way any further from anything encouraging you to behave the way you're behaving, pushing me down the extremely dark path. If you're serious about ever taking our connection in a positive direction, then it's really now or never. You absolutely unconditionally need to start directly communicating with me properly already and showing me your feelings clearly. And of course, I promise I'd be honest and clear with you too. There's absolutely no good reason for you to genuinely be extremely scared or sad or angry or hesitant or shy or feel anything else that would prohibitively hold you back about this. I understand you have issues with mental health, but you really can't use that as an excuse endlessly to try to justify doing whatever horrible things you feel like doing to people. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. That's just how life works, and it's only going to hurt you and everyone in your life if you keep acting in this extremely unhinged denial of it. I've been so patient and loving to you for so long. I've tried so hard to help you heal from your issues and make your life better. But all you've really done to me so far is hurt me extremely badly. If you're seriously not going to reach out to me directly and start treating me properly even now, even after everything I've done at this point, Kimmy, it's been well over 7 years now. You have no good excuses. None. Absolutely none. If you're seriously going to just keep making excuses to treat me like complete garbage and try to control me extremely abusively with your insane unhinged toxicity, then you clearly don't really love me and don't really care about ever having an at all healthy or tolerable relationship with me. And if that's really how things are, then we really can go down the extremely dark path absolutely unconditionally. I really don't know what you think you're acting like, but to me, it seems you really treat this all like one big, extremely cruel joke on me. But it's actually so extremely deep for me, and I'm telling you, you're seriously going to more than just regret it if you continue to act so carelessly. I've been extremely deeply disrespected by you so far, and I'm really not trying to wait around for yet another empty promise from you that things will change in a positive direction for me, when they should have already long ago, if just being patient and kind was going to ever be enough. It's not because I have anyone else to pursue or any intent to ever move on from you. I don't. Kimmy, I think about you so much every day and literally touch myself to you for hours every day. This is obviously not a joke or lighthearted thing to me. I have made it very clear what I want out of our connection and that I deserve it. And yet you seem to just want to endlessly deny me of it and use my feelings to benefit yourself at my expense instead of ever do anything actually good for me. I don't want, need, or deserve to be treated this way. I don't benefit in any way from it, and I don't owe it to you or anyone else to pretend otherwise is the case. There's really no point of even bothering to do any more fake garbage. You're literally just counting down the days until the end of your career and ultimately your entire life if you're going to continue messing around instead of starting to show me the love and respect I deserve in the way I'm clearly after. And if that's really how you want to decide to go about things, then there's really nothing that me or anyone else can ever do to help you. You need to be willing to help yourself. You need to genuinely care about yourself enough. You damn well best believe I'm not some insecure mess that's going to start being petty and toxic and chasing after you desperately like some ridiculously pathetic loser because you're trying to break my heart for the millionth time, casually trying to toss me aside like I'm garbage after you've tormented me, after begging to come back into my life, after your extreme toxicity made me push you away. I'm not going to beg to hold on to something that becomes extremely painfully clear I should know with absolute certainty will never bring me anything but pain and suffering and disappointment I never wanted or needed or deserved or benefited from in any way in my life. I'm not trying to enable you to be even worse and make your mental illness even more severe. I'm certainly not going to kill myself, nor change my position at all ever for any reason, and I'm certainly not going to wait around for you to try to endlessly erode at my mental and physical and spiritual health until you destroy me. That's really never changing, regardless of your decision. It should be pretty obvious to you at this point. So if you're serious about making the smart decision and not having to live a drastically shortened existence filled with immense insurmountable regret and sadness and anger, you'll do the right thing. Reach out to me directly already and communicate your feelings properly. I'm telling you, Kimmy, I'm really not trying to wait. I'm ready. I've been ready for a long time now. If you really won't, then understand that it really won't matter who you try to point fingers at and shift blame onto later. I'm seriously just going to follow through absolutely unconditionally, and it's seriously going to end extremely badly for you, no matter the cost to me. I swear it on everything. I'm seriously not trying to make this unclear at all. You should have absolutely no doubt in your mind whatsoever that you're absolutely unconditionally, completely doomed, and your life is going to end up brutally, completely falling apart and being destroyed if you continue effectively treating me like a joke any longer. Kimmy, I really, really, really dislike being threatening or giving ultimatums, especially to someone I genuinely have such extremely tender feelings towards deep inside. But you seriously can't keep doing this. My feelings don't exist to be viciously, relentlessly abused. I totally understand you could have seen it as testing me in the beginning to see if I'm being genuine and serious about you and not just trying to use you or hurt you or mess around for fun or entertainment or something like that. That's fair enough, and I totally get that. I really do. But this isn't the first few months or even the first few years of us being in each other's lives, Kimmy. It's been over 7 years now. You can't keep treating me absolutely as horribly as you ever possibly could, pushing me away whenever you feel like it, however you feel like it, and then starting to miss me extremely badly and realize how miserable you are without me in your life, and then have mental breakdowns on stream or somehow cry out for me again after a while whenever you feel like it, however you feel like it, and then just repeat the same vicious cycle behavior and drain all my time and energy I could be using to massively improve my own life. And then treat me like complete garbage because I'm not in a better position in life. I know you know how horrible treating someone like this is. Don't try to act like it's not that bad. It's really bad, Kimmy. Really bad. And doing this for years, most people probably would have ended themselves going through even a fraction of what I have because of you. And I know you know that too. There's just no way you don't. With your mental state, realistically, you yourself probably would have ended yourself long ago if you were put through what you put me through. I really never needed anything from you, and I really never needed or even wanted anything from any of your friends or otherwise associates. And really the only thing I ever wanted from you is your genuine love and affection in a genuine, loving, healthy, long-term relationship that I genuinely see as being with the love of my life. If you've been acting the way you have while actually being effectively unconditionally closed off to that, then I'm seriously going to do whatever it takes to make sure it's going to show, and you're going to have to take full accountability for what you've done to me and face serious consequences in your public and private life, no matter how hard you or anyone else tries to hide it or prevent it somehow. And not the consequences you feel like facing, or the consequences your audience or other people in your life feel like deciding you deserve. I'm talking about the consequences I consider actually adequate, and I've already explained in this podcast what the extremely dark path is. No matter how hard you try to blame others, you're going to end up realizing it really doesn't matter who you blame in the end. Your life will be the one completely destroyed, and you'll ultimately have nobody to blame but yourself. Maybe you think this is all fun and games right now, but I guarantee you're not going to be or even feel like a winner if you continue refusing to embrace our connection properly. So if you really want that for yourself, then continue not to speak directly to me, and understand you're fully consciously and intentionally choosing to make it extremely clear to me where we stand with each other. I'll know once and for all that I seriously need to put all my time and energy focusing on following through with my extremely dark threats, going down the extremely dark path in life without even the slightest bit of doubt or regret or second-guessing myself ever again. Just understand that you actually seriously can't ever come back later this time. Don't start missing me after a month or two or whatever and cry out for my attention somehow and think you're going to keep me stuck in the same extremely miserable, brutal place in life forever, like you have for the last over 7 years, where I'm sleeping on the streets and eating out of trash cans and barely surviving because you're so extremely brutally robbing me of all my time and energy and giving me nothing but pain and suffering I never wanted, needed, deserved, or ever benefited in any way from, in return for tolerating your insane abuse with unbelievable grace. You've done this several times before already, well more than enough to know how you feel when I'm out of your life. You're either going to stop trying to make me wait and start to seriously respect that your life is much better with me in it in a way that's much more pleasant for me and actually worth my time and energy, or you won't. And if you don't, then these past over 7 years I endured an actual unbelievably hellish nightmare to make sure I proved it to you well beyond any reasonable doubt isn't meaningless, Kimmy. And that seriously doesn't mean I'm ever moving on from you either. I just understand that even though you really are by far the sexiest being I could ever fathom existing, and I genuinely am and will forever be incomparably aroused by your incomparably perfect body, I've genuinely always seen as such since the beginning. I'm infinitely better off touching myself to you for hours every day by myself while cutting you off completely from my energy so you can't destroy my life with insane abuse of my feelings for you, rather than giving you endless chance after chance that you clearly show absolutely no end whatsoever to extremely brutal, vicious, predatory, psychotic lack of any proper recognition of or appreciation for. I'm seriously not at all pursuing, interested in, or willing to tolerate ever being with any of your friends or anyone else, Kimmy. This absolutely unconditionally will forever be the truth. Listen to what I'm telling you in front of the entire world in public. I'm not trying to keep this a secret or achieve ulterior motives. I'm telling you extremely clearly in absolutely no uncertain terms that I have never been, am not, and will never be pursuing, interested in, or willing to tolerate ever being with any of your friends or anyone else, Kimmy. I mean it. I've always meant it, and I will always mean it. If you disrespect what I'm saying and ignore me, or act like it effectively doesn't really ultimately matter, you really can't be surprised when your life seriously starts completely falling apart, because I prove I mean everything I'm saying, and you can't act like I've been predatory or malicious to you ever either, because I will completely neutralize your ability to extremely abusively try to massively warp the narrative so extremely badly. You try to flip everything on me and make it seem like I'm the problem and someone very different than who I really am. Anyone claiming otherwise is lying and intentionally trying to sabotage our connection. There's no real evidence to prove otherwise. Don't let yourself get bullied or manipulated. In the end, it will be your fault if you don't look at the situation realistically instead of from some super insecure and overly emotionally reactive perspective. Don't look at how I was kind to people at times in the past or called their bluffs in the past and think that means anything more than what it was. I was never interested in or pursuing any of them, and there's absolutely no need whatsoever for me to ever try to call out anyone's bluffs ever again either. People have been trying to sabotage our connection, and I was proving my point in asserting that, which I clearly did prove rather thoroughly in the end. I seriously don't want or need or benefit in any way from you trying to give me any opportunities to pursue any kind of romantic or sexual relations with any of your friends or anyone else for any reason. I literally only see you doing so as an insult, disrespecting my feelings for you. I'm repeatedly stating extremely clearly in absolutely no uncertain terms in this podcast. If you continue to do so at all, I will absolutely unconditionally see it as you fully consciously and intentionally, extremely disingenuously trying to act like I want someone that you in reality know fully well I never did and never will want, because you're trying to deny me of the relationship with you that you clearly know I've extremely thoroughly objectively proven I want and deserve. And even if you do so, it still does not and will never change my position. It just makes you look really bad and gives me even further evidence to completely destroy your life with later. Don't look at how many chances I've given you and think anyone else is ever getting any kind of similar treatment from me. You're very different to me from anyone else, and not just because your body is incomparably sexy to me. I've met you in person, and you're the first and only person I've ever really loved and seriously pursued a romantic relationship with in any way. It really doesn't matter how difficult that might be for anyone to believe. It's absolutely the complete truth, and there's no real evidence whatsoever otherwise. The extremely shady and forced way others tried to show me affection and force me to show some kind of reciprocation. For someone to do that, and then even after being shown kindness, making a complete mockery of me and flaunting being a backstabbing, selfish, manipulative psychopath, that's seriously not cute or sexy or romantic to me. It never has been and never will be. It's genuinely just extremely disgusting, and I would never give second chances to people like that. Never. Literally, no matter what they look like or say or do or have. They're not even nearly as physically attractive to me as you are anyways either. So it's not like it's even remotely tempting to me anyways. Literally nobody is even close to as physically attractive as you are to me. Even A-list celebrities aren't even close to as physically attractive to me as you are. It's literally impossible for anyone to ever even seriously tempt me to change my position ever, no matter how anyone acts or how much time passes. I'm seriously not trying or willing to let the reason I've done all this be warped. There's no amount of pain you or anyone or anything else can ever inflict on me that will ever change that. And I'm not going to keep repeating that that's not me trying to challenge anyone. It never has been and it never will be. The only real challenge you should see yourself as having here is being strong enough to be vulnerable with me when you're clearly so extremely severely broken inside that you have immense, unbelievable difficulty actually opening up and accepting your feelings and how much people actually mean to you when you have serious feelings towards them. And knowing even just what I know about your childhood and life in general, that's definitely not an issue I'm responsible for you having. I understand it's scary for you, Kimmy. Really, I know it wouldn't be easy for you. But your excuses really aren't going to matter if you seriously push me down the extremely dark path with an unbelievable, unacceptable level of ignorance and arrogance that you'd be showing to push me there by continuing to even now refuse proper direct communication with me. Do you think it was easy for me to reach the point I've reached in my life? Hell no. I really don't think I need to repeat myself or elaborate even more on that after I've already elaborated even just how much I already have on this podcast so far. Not only have I lived a much harder life than you overall, but even just my day-to-day is also still much more difficult and stressful than yours would ever be. You aren't consistently spending like 10 to 12 plus hours a day working like I do, and you aren't even homeless or eating out of trash cans like I am. Don't even think of trying to get sympathy or pity from me by talking about you being stressed out or finding it difficult to communicate your feelings. I don't need or expect or even really want you to write me an essay or make some dramatic gesture towards me. I'm literally just saying basic communication. Simple, basic communication. You aren't incapable of speaking the English language to another human being. You should feel immense sympathy for me and be dying to speak to me after everything you've put me through. And yet all you seem to want to do is make excuses to try to make me seem like the problem for expecting to be treated like a decent human being by you. This is literally the textbook definition of full-blown narcissism and psychopathy. You really want to keep acting like I'm some toxic childish hater for saying that? How about we ask the expert opinion of an unbiased, licensed mental health expert with all the actual objectively quantifiable evidence and facts of this situation and see if they have the audacity to put their license on the line disagreeing. But of course, you won't, because you know damn well that I'm absolutely correct. I have absolutely no sympathy or pity whatsoever for you choosing to maintain such an unbelievably entitled, spoiled, selfish, arrogant attitude, nor should I. I'm never letting you act like I killed myself or died somehow or moved on from you. You're wasting your time if you're trying to just continue this garbage and try the kind of thing you tried last time I was silent for a while. I seriously will stand up for myself and expose the truth as many times as necessary if I see things like that happening ever again. And I'm already seeing exactly the same kinds of things happening again right now, so don't even think of trying to gaslight me that this is an overreaction or something. These plots against me will never succeed, and anyone trying them is only making things worse for themselves. I've already been exposing literally criminal activity publicly with this podcast for months now. If the FBI isn't seriously investigating and making arrests or taking serious adequate action somehow to put an end to this illegal existential assault against me, I'd be warranted in suing the government for negligence. I'm probably already justified in it, actually, realistically. I'm just taking matters into my own hands because I expect that's going to be far more effective than waiting around for lawyers to try to win me money or something that wouldn't change the root of my problem even if I got billions anyways. You know very well I've shown you even just a little bit of the kind of stuff I'm capable of in game development, and you've literally went on stream the next day and had existential crisis mental breakdowns in the past over it. You'll be left only imagining how fast I'm progressing, both not having to share and not having to spend tons of time communicating with anyone about anything, or having anything draining all my time and energy like I have ever since you entered my life. And that's only one part of how rough your life's gonna become without me giving you even the slightest preferential treatment or favor. It's really not going to be fun for you, Kimmy. Whatever adrenaline you might be feeling from seeing drama and me speaking the truth right now is going to quickly fade, and then you're just going to be left with the extremely brutal, sobering reality that you're seriously counting down the days until everything comes crashing down for you. Stopping yourself from spiraling is going to become increasingly difficult until you end up destroying yourself one way or another. Do you really want to end up that way? If you're seriously going to continue to disrespect me and hate on me so extremely badly and effectively demonstrate such an extremely severely antagonistic attitude towards my existence that you still even now want to continue to viciously refuse to directly communicate with me in a genuine, kind, healthy manner, then I'm seriously not going to have any pity or mercy on you, and I'm seriously never going to feel even remotely any shame or guilt or doubts or regrets over the path you would be pushing me down, nor should I. If you continue at all any longer, you have absolutely no good excuse to try to deny you're doing it fully consciously and intentionally. You're fully consciously and intentionally choosing to relentlessly, viciously, extremely abusively, narcissistically, psychotically attempt to provoke extremely self-destructive rage from me through extremely intense, devious, relentless, vicious, exceedingly unacceptably, severely predatory attempts to brutally, massively, negatively, emotionally destabilize and traumatize me to the point of ultimately my entire life being brutally destroyed and ended. You're blatantly, unapologetically, completely revealing what you've been doing all along these past over 7 years, ever since you met me, was trying to benefit at my expense against my consent in the most horrible, cruel, vicious, predatory, selfish, unhinged, psychotic way possible, through whatever even most morally bankrupt ways possible, with absolutely unconditional, unrestrained, malicious intent towards me. But don't forget that even if you choose to be that way, I still mean everything I've said. I'm seriously never moving on. I'm never even remotely going to even consider entertaining the possibility of ever being with anyone else. I'm still going to touch myself to your incomparably sexy, perfect body frequently, and I'm only going to receive the irrevocable, thorough confirmation once and for all that I can, should, and will be absolutely unconditionally heading down the extremely dark path and completely destroying every aspect of your life one way or another, literally at any cost, as I follow through on my threats, one step at a time, one day at a time, without ever again even once having even the slightest speck of doubts, regrets, second-guessing, or hesitation. I sure as hell won't ever even remotely validate you being with anyone else. I won't even consider it. It's never been and will never be even the slightest bit tempting, just like how ever even considering being open at all to being with anyone else for any reason at any point in time isn't even the slightest bit tempting to me. You can bet on that, believe me, because whether you love or trust or respect me at all, ever or not, it really doesn't change that it's true and will forever be true. I won't play any video game with you, role-playing or not. After all the countless times you've backstabbed me over the years, and especially with how you're only increasingly blatantly flaunting and basically glorifying an extremely predatory and toxic attitude over time, I have absolutely zero, even remotely good or at all actually sensible reason to believe you plan to do anything except hurt me and backstab me yet again if I ever even slightly loosen up my boundaries at all that I'm establishing here, literally entirely regardless of what you or anyone else ever says or does, and entirely regardless of any other factors. Whether or not you're streaming, or there's anyone or certain people around you, or what kind of progression in your role-playing storyline you've reached, or how you or your in-game character look, or any other factors you try to surround the situation with, while you continue to disrespect me so extremely brutally by refusing to have proper direct communication with me in a way that isn't ambiguous as to your intent, or attempting to abusively force control over my life somehow, it all doesn't change anything whatsoever, looking at things objectively, reasonably, and with my self-respect and integrity adequately taken into consideration. The only thing that makes any sensible reason for me to even consider engaging with you in is first you have direct communication with me beforehand privately, very much clearly outside of any video game or any even notion of any kind of role-playing or otherwise pretending context, and establish that you actually seriously, genuinely want and deserve my trust on a personal level. Otherwise, you're clearly just trying to set me up to validate extremely warped narratives of me one way or another, and have increasingly extremely abusive attempts to force control over my life succeed. So since I was never and will never be trying to get used by you and allow you to hurt me and act like I want or enjoy or deserve that somehow, I'm never even considering entertaining even the serious possibility of falling into traps that attempt to achieve that. Even if you yourself aren't at all misrepresenting things and trying to hurt me, it's already become plenty obvious to me that so many of your toxic friends are so extremely jealous that at least some of them must definitely be trying to demonize me somehow and would cause me major problems. And I can't imagine such problems not being prohibitively problematic for me to ever achieve anything good for myself in trying, because whoever is trying things like that has support from others in what they're doing. Meanwhile, I'm left completely alone and not even with your clear support for the relationship with you that I'm after. I'm not clueless to not realize how extremely detrimental it would be for me to be at a massive disadvantage in a game I'm not familiar with, in an environment I'm not familiar with nobody really supporting me, and not even my general intellect or emotional awareness to be adequate in the face of layers of complexity with all kinds of real-life dynamics and stories, many of which I'm not even remotely aware of any of the details of, merged into a bunch of role-playing dynamics and stories of which I'm also not aware of, since I don't really pay any attention to any of your friends playing, and I certainly don't have the time, energy, or desire to start pouring into that. With the way things are, even seriously considering any kind of interaction with you or any of your friends or otherwise associates in any kind of game, even if it were one I'm familiar with, is such a ridiculously, obviously futile uphill battle for me that comes off to me like people clearly intentionally trying to set me up to harm my life in real life somehow. It's both far less energy and stress and far more suitable to my skill set and generally intelligent and beneficial for myself and for the world for me to just do the game that I'm good at and produce something awesome and build my professional prospects up with that endeavor that I've been meticulously crafting my skill set to be most suitable to since childhood. I don't have to deal with any possible setups, I don't ever have any kind of dependence on anyone, and my integrity is thoroughly reinforced. But Kimmy, I'm telling you extremely clearly, if you're seriously going to try to set me up in tons of traps like you have, and then even after seeing me overcome everything in something so powerful as this podcast the way I handled it, you're going to abandon me after everything you've put me through all these years and make me go off on my own and completely cut you and your friends and everyone else out of my life and make it entirely on my own as you establish such an extremely antagonistic position towards me that you and your friends are clearly my worst enemies. There's no going back on it later and acting like you didn't absolutely thoroughly know what you were doing. You clearly are making a decision right now, whether you like it or not, and you know damn well what you're doing after I've went to this kind of great lengths to make it abundantly clear to you what the reality is. You won't be able to manipulate me into going easy on you or your friends later, and neither will any of them or anyone else. When I say I will brutally, absolutely destroy your life completely at any cost, I mean it. There's no amount of crying or having mental breakdowns or trying to make excuses or shift blame or throw pity parties for yourself or anything else that will ever change things. You'll just be getting the extremely brutal, life-destroying karma you deserve for your extremely stupid decision to abandon me at this time instead of properly embrace the feelings I've always hoped you have for me and the kind of connection with me you should have been dying to embrace having with me already. I seriously don't use any alt accounts on anything to communicate with you or any of your friends or anyone else in any way. I'm seriously not talking in your or anyone else's Twitch chat or commenting on anyone's YouTube videos or any social medias. Just like I've said, I haven't in years, and I'm seriously unwilling to do so ever again if you really aren't going to start healthily directly communicating with me in a timely manner. And you can definitely forget me privately, personally emailing you information you've clearly been massively abusing and betraying me by trying to leverage it somehow, obviously, fully consciously and intentionally, completely against my consent, to make my life even more difficult and take credit for the work I do. I'm telling you, don't underestimate my ability to cut people off. I'm telling you extremely clearly, I'm seriously not lying about anything I'm saying in this podcast. A lack of reactivity from me on your content doesn't mean I consent to or validate the things you're doing at all. I just know you've been going to great lengths to form extremely false narratives about me over the years, and the way you're behaving just comes off like you're trying to validate the smear campaign against me with any reactivity you try to provoke me into, to try to make me seem like I'm toxic and I've been the problem all along. Every time I've tried confronting you in various ways in the past, you antagonize me and act like I'm crazy for saying anything. The only alternative would be extremely pathetically sucking up to you and effectively being forced into some ridiculous frenemy garbage I'd find absolutely unconditionally intolerable. You've intentionally tried to set up a situation where I lose control over my life either way if I try to approach you first. I know better than to react in ways I know you'll abuse extremely badly to try to exert control over my life you do not deserve to have at all. Don't try to act like I just wasn't willing to stick it out during lows and highs. All you're giving me is lows and lower lows. You ignore me. You pretend I don't exist. You pretend what I'm saying is stupid or useless or lacking in substance, even when it's obviously extremely deep and real and exposes the truth increasingly clearly. You try to act like I'm after your friends, and when I don't even consider entertaining the false narrative you're trying to present as such, after a while, you literally fake my death fully knowingly and intentionally against my consent, and then publicly flaunt it, going on your Discord server and saying you're finally at peace with your past, and try to call me a ghost and blatantly take credit for my work when I return to expose you. There are no highs, just you being extremely manipulative and abusive and controlling. You're horrible to me and try to keep me stuck in life and robbing my energy and deteriorating at my will to live for absolutely no benefit you ever deliver. I've been hoping all this time that one day you'd realize how severe the mistake you're making in treating me this way really is, and you'd stop being so horrible to me and you'd see how precious you really should treat me for being in your life. Yet you only get exponentially worse to me every time you try to push me into vicious cycles of your abuse and mistreatment and broken promise after broken promise. I'm always consistent and well-intentioned and showing up for you, and all you do is spread chaos and pain in my life with extreme indecisiveness and inconsistency and increasingly blatant bad intentions, and abandoning me and trying to force me back into your life whenever you feel like it, however you feel like it. Even despite dealing with this for years, I never backstabbed you or even planned to, and I don't have any desire or willingness to ever try to use this situation to facilitate me entering into a relationship with anyone else. Ever since the very beginning of our connection, I've been the furthest thing from childish or toxic, and you've been nothing but childish and toxic to me. You can't be so extremely horrible and then try to flip it on me, or even as if we're both at fault and this should just be drama. No, this is not drama. This is the reality of what, at this point, is a textbook case of you being an extremely vicious narcissist psychopath that has inflicted extreme abuse on me as the real victim here, unquestionably extremely selfishly robbing me of my energy for the last over 7 years with unrestrained malicious intent towards me. And if you seriously aren't willing to drastically change your behavior towards me in a timely manner, this can, should, and will ultimately, absolutely, brutally, thoroughly destroy your life. You wondering what's the worst that could happen? You want to know what's going to happen once I finally get some time to myself to pick myself up and put my life back together from your years of keeping me stuck, being broken, homeless, and brutally, relentlessly ostracized while you robbed me of every bit of my energy? Your reputation and career will be completely destroyed. I'll sue you into bankruptcy. You'll ultimately be eliminated from real life early in a horrible way, either by yourself or by someone else. What it seems you thought you'd be able to do to me, one way or another, with your lies. Except I'll do it to you in rightful retribution with the truth. Pretty much the worst that it could ever get. That's what will happen, Kimmy. We're seriously not on any kind of even remotely good terms, and the same is true about all of your friends. Any of them at all acting like they know me, or I'm communicating with them, or feel warmth towards them, or like them, or have any kind of deals with them, are blatantly, knowingly, and intentionally lying. I've repeated it many times now that anyone at all trying to communicate anything in contradiction with what I'm saying on this podcast is blatantly, knowingly, and intentionally lying for selfish gain against my consent. I've been left in such a brutal, hellish nightmare for so long because people don't believe me or care, no matter how many times I've said and tried to prove the reality of my life circumstances. And yet they try to act like I like them, or I'm their friend, or owe them something, or want something from them, when absolutely none of those things are true. No matter how you or anyone else ever acts, I'm seriously never going to blow up on you and have some "I never wanted you anyways" or whatever toxic attitude. Anyways, I know extremely well how I've always felt about you. I know extremely well that it only validates how horribly you've treated me for me to start getting really defensive and trying to make you feel bad with petty toxicity. It also doesn't achieve anything good at all for me when I both don't have any ego to protect and aren't trying to use this situation to facilitate getting into a relationship with someone else. I don't see any shame in admitting how I feel about you, and that I touch myself to you for hours every day and always thought you were different deep down, and how the way you're behaving right now seriously seems to show you to be in reality all along. It's you that looked horrible if this is how you actually feel about me and who you really are. I'm saving irrefutable video evidence of all the extremely incriminating things you're doing. I'm really just some pathetic loser to you that you saw as nothing more than a tool for selfish gain all along. I'm just some pest you seriously wish would drop dead for your comfort. In that case, I know I seriously can and should and will absolutely destroy your life sooner or later. If you seriously aren't going to start directly communicating with me healthily and lovingly and pursuing a serious relationship with me in a timely manner, it really doesn't matter how much you try to pretend I don't exist. It really doesn't matter how much you pretend that how I've defended my life here doesn't really matter. You literally are making yourself look worse every passing day you act this way, and you're just completely proving everything I'm saying is true. I just have to stay calm and execute on each step to destroying you, and you'll come to regret ever being born. I really don't know what you think is going on right now, but I'm most certainly never adopting some shallow garbage attitude and trying to go and make money to get into a relationship with someone else and try to flex on you later and make you jealous and all this petty, stupid garbage that the kind of people you surround yourself with would probably do if they got betrayed the way it seems you were always trying to do to me. That's stupid garbage. Those people don't love deeply. They don't understand what it feels like to be betrayed and abandoned like you're doing to me. They probably think they do, but I'd bet my life on it that they haven't been through even half of what I've been through in my life as a whole. They're just so stupidly arrogant that they think they know me or they're better than me, when that's not even close to true. If you really don't want to be close to me and by my side properly in a healthy, loving relationship, then I'm seriously done with trying to ever love or trust anyone ever again. I don't even want to consider entertaining even the possibility of any kind of romantic relationship or even really friendship with anyone ever again. I'll seriously just touch myself to you daily and never get even somewhere close to anyone ever again and execute on going down an extremely dark path of destruction and retribution. Understand why my word choice is extremely intentional. Not chaos, destruction. There's a big difference. I'm not having fun and trying to toy around with it and see if I can gain or something. It's going to be extremely serious, brutal devastation for you, and I'm going to be extremely focused on it. All that energy and focus I've been dedicating to genuinely loving you will become repurposed to become truly your worst nightmare of nightmares brought to reality. I'm not going to be trying to maximize or drag out drama or thinking of views or money, just how to devastate and destroy every part of your life in the most horrible, nightmarish possible way, and executing on that with relentless, meticulous, unbelievable precision every single day until I unquestionably thoroughly succeed. I'll seriously have no hesitation in the slightest to be so remarkably cruel to you, to the point you clearly seem to believe it's not even possible for someone to be that dark and mean. But you're seriously bringing out that side of me, because I really was never this weak, pathetic loser that you seem all too comfortable treating me like I am. You try to act like I'm abusive or somehow a bad person for threatening or saying the things I say, but the reality is you've already extremely seriously tried to do these things to me. You just pretend you're a good person because you don't explicitly say them, but doing them to someone who doesn't deserve it while you're pretending they're doing that to you while they aren't. That's not something a good person would ever do. Understand something, Kimmy. This isn't some angsty, edgy, try-hard wannabe garbage. You're not just a phase to me. I've never seen you that way, and I'll never see you that way in the future either. You're seriously the only person I can ever even imagine being the love of my life. And with how insurmountably, extremely, deeply important being genuinely loved by someone I genuinely love so much really is to me, losing the life I tried so hard to have with you is a loss that hurts me in ways I'm quite certain most people can't even imagine possible. And you're going to experience a reflection of that in ways that nobody you've ever actually been with and will ever be with will ever be even remotely capable of inflicting upon you. That's what you're choosing if you're seriously going to commit to becoming my worst enemy instead of my lover for life. Listen, Kimmy, I really don't owe it to you or anyone else to care about you. I never did. I'm completely committed to seeing this conflict through to the end for better or worse, and it's been that way since the beginning, and anyone at all communicating otherwise in any way has always been and will always be lying. At this point, it should be exceedingly abundantly clear they're obviously operating very much knowingly, consciously, and intentionally, completely against my consent, and that's very much not at all okay with me, and I won't let it slide ever. Since I really don't know what the hell is going on in your head and in your life behind the scenes, and you never communicate with me properly, and I'm left extremely deeply disturbed, and I really don't know how you'll react to this, I want to once again reiterate that I'm especially disturbed at the possibility that you're pregnant right now, or planning or trying to get pregnant. Like I've been saying, I do not, have never, and will never support that, and if you seriously don't want your life to seriously fall apart and become destroyed absolutely unconditionally, and me seriously never even considering giving you another chance no matter what you or anyone else does, as I absolutely unconditionally would head down the extremely dark path in life, you'll make sure you avoid getting pregnant, and you'll get an abortion if you're currently pregnant, no matter what, and I'm seriously not trying to have you delay it even in the slightest. This is an extremely firm boundary I've always had and will always have, and believe me, I will make absolutely certain I've made it extremely clear to you and the rest of the world that it is not, has never been, and will never be at all okay with me for you to ever get pregnant. You need to understand that it can't happen now, and it also can't happen later, no matter with who, and you also can't in general do extremely unhinged things with effectively more or less complete disregard for what I've told you and my feelings, and yet expect everything to be fine in the end, literally no matter what you ever do. That's absolutely not healthy and not even remotely reasonable at all for anyone to expect anyone to tolerate that. I most certainly do not expect and have never expected and will never expect you to tolerate me acting like that, and I'm absolutely certain you know that extremely well. I won't allow you to hold insane double standards with me and think that's okay. It never was and it never will be, and I've never done anything that should actually give you any indication otherwise. My position on abortion as a whole is simple. I really don't care for getting into politics, so I don't care for debating or contemplating on the ethics overall or in every possible situation. I'm absolutely certain that I absolutely unconditionally do not want, have never wanted, and will never want children with anyone, and that's literally been how I've always felt from a very young age. I've literally never even once in my entire life thought or felt that it seems even slightly appealing to ever have children with anyone. Never. No matter what my life circumstances ever are. I'm saying this extremely clearly in absolutely no uncertain terms, and I absolutely mean it without even the slightest bit of doubt or confusion or indecisiveness or any kind of ulterior motive. I've literally never even once in my entire life said anything to anyone that would at all suggest otherwise is the case, and I never will. Like I've said many times before already, throughout the years to Kimmy and in front of many other people, it's nothing personal with anyone, and it's not mental illness or any kind of confusion or insincerity. I genuinely, strongly dislike children, find them really annoying in general, and they are grossly incompatible with ever having any place in the life I want to live. Having children is a personal choice, not a requirement of a full or decent life. Some people are genuinely just happiest never having children, and I've most certainly always been and most certainly will always be one of those people. After how many times you've publicly also explicitly stated in the past that you don't want children, there's also very much rationally extremely serious reason to see anyone who would ever impregnate you as forcing it on you in reality, or someone forcing it on both of you to have children. And even if you and the other person don't feel forced at all, and that's genuine, I most certainly don't want, deserve, or have any willingness to tolerate the massive, unacceptable insult to me that it'd be for you to have a child, especially after having flaunted it like you would have if you're pregnant right now or planning to get pregnant, after how you've concerned and tormented me that it might have already happened or you intend for it to happen. As far as I'll ever be concerned, not only do I find children generally unpleasant and undesirable and incompatible with the life I want to live, but having children with someone is something women usually do to try to have some level of control over the person they have children with. Although your extreme attempts to control my life don't change how attracted to your body I'll forever be, and how much I wish you were a decent human being and would at least seriously start proving genuine willingness to grow in a positive direction, and do your best to prove to me every day moving forward that you genuinely want to be much better than you've been to me so far, I absolutely, unconditionally, thoroughly refuse to ever forget or allow you to massively downplay the immense significance that what you've put me through has in terms of revealing what kind of person you're inclined to be if I show any serious desire or willingness to allow or tolerate even the slightest bit of your desire to see me validate, glorifying, and even practically fetishizing that attitude which I personally do always have and always will find extremely deeply unattractive, unpleasant, undesirable, and intolerable in a partner. If you seriously feel like you're entitled to inflicting that on me anyways, because for whatever mental illness you and whoever else in this world has, someone feels I deserve or want or will tolerate it, then you seriously can just absolutely unconditionally go down the extremely dark path, and I'll actually unapologetically destroy your life and whoever you might have ever had or have any children with, absolutely unconditionally and without any doubts or regrets whatsoever. So you're doomed, and whatever child or children you so unacceptably disrespected me by having are also doomed, and you have nobody to really blame but yourself. I've already explained in detail my perspective on this in the podcast release, What This Is Not, and I really don't find it necessary to repeat myself over and over on it all. I know I kind of gave a deadline in that release in the past, and the opportunity I'm presenting to you right now to start treating me better goes in contradiction with those deadlines. But those past deadlines are the only thing I've ever said to you, whether in this podcast or throughout the years in general, that I've been willing to reconsider or go back on my word regarding. It's always been because you managed to present some seriously compelling reason to try to demonstrate why maybe you felt trapped by others into neglecting them. But I've now put such immense effort to make the reality of the situation so extremely clear to you and everyone else, so there's no more room for such excuses. So don't look at all the times I've extended or reconsidered deadlines in the past and think that there's any flimsiness in the extremely firm boundaries I'm establishing with this podcast and especially this release. I'm seriously not just saying this because it's the right thing to do or because it sounds good. Don't ever even think of later acting like you thought I was giving you an opportunity disingenuously or just to be nice or somehow felt forced to or something like that. No, I feel forced to attack you publicly and come off as if I'm trying to antagonize you because you're even more toxic if I don't. But that doesn't mean I've ever felt forced to have or express intimate feelings for you and serious desire for a meaningful long-term relationship with you. I seriously feel this strongly about you, and I seriously want you to take this opportunity, and I'm seriously, fully, consciously, and intentionally doing absolutely everything in my power to put the maximum amount of pressure on you to treat me properly. You're seriously unacceptably disrespecting me and going against my wishes, best interests, and consent if you refuse. Let it be known I made this extremely clear in public in front of the world to you, and you have absolutely no even remotely good excuses later to try to act like you are doing me or anyone else any favors if you refuse. You aren't. You really aren't. Don't look at me being gentle or sensitive and think my heart will ever soften or my position or feelings or actions or attitude will ever change in this regard. You're seriously either my extremely loving, intimate life partner forever and you'll start seriously acting like it, or you're seriously my worst enemy and I'm seriously, absolutely, unconditionally, thoroughly, meticulously destroying every aspect of your life at any cost because I'm seriously never moving on, literally no matter what. Don't get things twisted. I swear on everything. Don't take my kindness for weakness or indecisiveness or confusion or anything else where you're trying to read some weird message between the lines. There is no message between the lines. There are no hidden implications anywhere here. I'm telling you things exactly as they are and will forever be, and everything is absolutely unconditionally intended to be taken at face value for what the words are explicitly stating. And yes, you can consider that legally binding. I'm not joking. I've never been joking or exaggerating or anything like that. And anyone at all presenting otherwise is fully, consciously, and intentionally lying. Kimmy, I'm seriously sick of your excuses and lies and garbage, extremely toxic attitude. I could literally be the most loving and wonderful person in the entire world and it wouldn't matter. God damn it. If Jesus was real, and he came down from heaven and appeared in front of you, and you treated him the way you treated me, I'm absolutely convinced, even if he wouldn't turn his back on anyone else in the entire world, he'd turn his back on you if you continue like this any longer. I physically feel nauseous, and I'm getting sick, even just thinking of dealing with having to repeat myself on things and demand fair treatment from you, even once more. I'm seriously actually homeless and literally sleeping on the streets and literally eating out of trash cans to survive and crying myself to sleep at night because of what you've done to me and how brutally, unbelievably, extremely, exceedingly selfish and inconsiderate and disrespectful you've been to me for the past over 7 years. I could literally get murdered randomly for no good reason any day just because I'm stuck sleeping on the streets because of how unbelievably horrible you've been to me and how you brutally robbed me of every bit of my time and energy for the last over 7 years of my life and left me stuck in the same extremely miserable place, barely surviving and just defending myself against the insane smear campaign and abuse you and your toxic trash friends have been inflicting on me. And instead of sobering up to reality and starting to act like an adult, decent human being to me after pushing me to start a podcast and already making 10 whole podcast releases, thoroughly confronting and exposing you to the world and proving to you and everyone else how unquestionably extremely doomed you are if you continue this way, you're seriously just trying to continue to abuse me and make excuses and keep me trapped in this toxic, weak energy, trying to get me to become exhausted and overwhelmed and depressed and anxious and self-destructing, and seemingly you're just waiting and hoping I kill myself or get murdered randomly or something horrible happens to me and I'm unable to keep defending myself from your and your friends' massive crimes against me that you're trying to cover up to this day. This is not okay. It couldn't be further from okay. I don't have time or energy or desire to put up with your excuses and toxicity if that's all I'm ever really getting from you. I seriously don't want, need, or benefit from this at all. I'm suffering unbelievably immensely every single day, and you're still just screwing around and treating me like I'm a joke as you're sitting cozy in your room, laughing and gossiping with your friends, and tormenting me with devious, underhanded implications through your content. Do you think you're going to laugh at me being vulnerable with you yet again and then plot with your friends about how you're going to try to take advantage of me and manipulate and control me for your selfish gain completely at my expense and fully consciously and intentionally so viciously completely against my consent? No. Hell no. I've been dealing with this nightmare for over 7 unbelievably miserable years. No, you're not going to get to keep going to insane lengths to try to bring out the absolute worst in me and destroy my life, see me thoroughly prove you're completely wrong about so many horribly inaccurate things you believe about me or claim about me, and yet still try to act like I'm the problem. This needs to stop, and you'd seriously best believe me when I say I'm not trying to wait, or I promise, I swear, on God, on everything, I actually will make sure I do whatever it takes and deal with whatever it costs to make sure you suffer a horrible, extremely brutal, total destruction of your life and early demise in real life. Absolutely unconditionally. And don't you dare ever try to act like this is not that deep for me ever again, because I'll show you how wrong you really are, one way or another, sooner or later, and you'll really see who the real problem is, and you really won't be able to keep pretending or ignoring it like you have for so long. The world will know the truth, and the fact that it'll really be too late for you at that point, that's really not my problem. I've already repeatedly announced to the world in absolutely no uncertain terms that I'm never moving on from you regardless. I will only continue to prove it no matter what, and I'm seriously never going to allow my integrity to be compromised no matter what. And you'd best believe it, because whether or not you believe it, it's not changing, and it's the truth. I don't care so much about getting an apology. I care about you seriously starting to treat me properly. An apology changes absolutely nothing if you won't treat me how I want and deserve. I don't care nearly as much about whatever words you say as I do about your actions. I need actions. Clear, serious, decisive actions. And not baby steps. You're not a child. You're a grown adult, and you need to start behaving like one. I cannot make this more clear. You are not doing me a favor pushing me away at all. I most certainly do not want to have endured everything I have because of you and then have to go and achieve professional success entirely on my own, not only without any professional help from you in any kind of even remotely actually fair or honest way, but also with absolutely zero real emotional support from you in the manner of the kind of relationship I've repeatedly extremely clearly stated in this podcast I've been after all these years in my efforts. I don't want to be abandoned by you, and I have absolutely nothing better waiting for me if you choose to do so regardless. I've made it abundantly clear with how I'm extremely clearly, explicitly describing how and why me exposing everything I have on this podcast is not me rejecting you or leaving you. You aren't even treating me like someone actually in a relationship for me to leave you. You literally haven't directly communicated with me in over 6 years. That isn't a relationship. You can't be in a relationship with someone you literally haven't directly communicated with even once in well over half a decade. I don't have other people lined up or anything compelling waiting for me, with you committing to rejecting me, for me to want you out of my life. I literally just want you to stop treating me like complete garbage, as if I'm an abusive, narcissistic, psychopath piece of garbage, when I'm literally acting like the complete opposite of that extremely consistently. That's definitely not too much to ask for. It's not the bare minimum, but I've never given you the bare minimum, and I don't deserve the bare minimum. I'm awesome, I know it, and I deserve to be treated accordingly. So if you refuse, that's entirely you being the problem. Entirely. I've literally done everything I can every step of the way. Confronting you publicly like I am on this podcast was something you went to great lengths to attempt to warp for the longest time, as me trying to emotionally abuse you and use you for progressing my professional prospects and all this other completely false garbage. So I couldn't really do this any earlier with sufficient evidence to prove any claims like that are absolutely unquestionably completely false, to the extent that my point would be provable even in a formal courtroom. I wasn't ever enjoying or benefiting from raging at you or trying to see what other people's intentions in giving me any kind of attention was. I was literally fully consciously and intentionally, extremely meticulously proving the reality of my sincerity every day, every step of the way, in every possible way I could see available to me for over 7 years. It's not an accident that things have ended up unraveling the way they have. I haven't been relying on luck to get this far. This is the result of an unbelievable, insurmountable effort from me to prove my worthiness of an extremely healthy, genuine, loving life partnership with you in person, with extremely frequent, tender physical intimacy exclusively between us. If you want to abandon me after everything I've done for you, and how clearly extremely committed I am, and how extremely invested you clearly, fully, consciously, and intentionally got me after over 7 years, then that's clearly you being the problem, and you clearly choosing to completely validate all the extremely horrible things about you that I've been saying are true, and choosing to be completely deserving of your life falling apart the way I will make sure it ends up doing at any cost. Just understand, you are choosing that, and my confronting you publicly like this serves as irrefutable evidence of that, and will only further do so in the utmost potent fashion, no matter how horribly I'm treated. So you can never try to spin this all on me and act like I'm the problem ever again. So when your life starts falling apart, understand you chose that. Kimmy, understand what it means when I say I'm not stupid. If me speaking up clearly causes problems for you and your associates, that means you're benefiting from the silence you're trying to force me into, which means you know what you're doing is wrong. So wrong, in fact, that me saying what I'm saying exposes it so badly. You need me to shut up or your lies will destroy your life. And you're in reality extremely nervous every time you try to act, because you know that you're presenting massive lies that are extremely detrimental to me as fact, and the people around you are blindly believing you because you're extremely severely abusing your perceived credibility with the social position you're in. Anyone being even remotely honest should see that you're trying to make dealing with this so extremely detrimental and intolerable that I can't even fight back against it. I'm never going to allow you to turn everything I've been through into some stupid drama you try to benefit off of professionally at my expense, and make it seem like I deserve to at best just benefit off it professionally with attention as well, as if that's what I always wanted or will ever be willing to settle for after everything I've been through because of my genuine feelings for you, and how seriously I pursued something extremely meaningful with you because of them. Believe me, Kimmy, this really always has been and always will be extremely deep to me, way too deep for me to ever allow that. I've described plenty clearly what success looks like for me here. I really will achieve it at any cost. I will. Don't try to glorify being at war with me. I'm not some mentally unstable hater or some fake loser for me to be wanting of going to war against you or anyone else. This is literally an extremely deeply existential matter for me. Literally a matter of life or death for me. Not entertainment or amusement or some kind of effort towards any ulterior motive. It doesn't get deeper than this for me. If you seriously walk away from me right now instead of promptly embrace a healthy connection with me with healthy healthy, direct communication. I'm seriously, absolutely, unconditionally unwilling to ever even consider trying with anyone else ever again. And I'm seriously going to be forced to deny you of ever being able to embrace any kind of positive connection with me ever again as well, because your unbelievably antagonistic attitude towards me comes off far too malicious for me to be able to reasonably see it as anything other than serious intent to end my life for your own selfish gain against even my greatest efforts to prove I never wanted, needed, deserved, or benefited in any way from that. As ready as I am to go there if I'm really going to be pushed, I don't want to go to war against anyone. I never have. I'm not enjoying this. I never was. I'm not benefiting from this. I never was. The direction you're heading in is literally my worst nightmare. Putting everything of my mind, heart, and soul into this connection for over 7 years, and in the end just being extremely brutally used and abandoned while you literally criminally lied about me and tried to spin everything to make me look like the problem when you know damn well you're the problem. Even despite you knowing with unquestionable, absolute certainty that I've been completely sincere all along, and I'm actually so unbelievably attracted to your body, I genuinely find eternally, incomparably absolute perfection in every single way, and genuinely have always been trying to see the best in you and see so much potential for you to grow into a much better person that I clearly have so much willingness to help you through your issues regarding. You're unbelievably, brutally, viciously, relentlessly tormenting me extremely badly by extremely severely misrepresenting the reality of what's going on instead of acting like an even remotely decent human being. I might not know exactly how you see every single detail I've mentioned here, but don't play dumb. Don't act like you don't know what's going on or what's going to happen if you continue this way. Don't act like I'm scared to communicate with you or I'm somehow confused or indecisive. I'm extremely certain on my position, and there's absolutely no confusion or indecisiveness or lack of confidence whatsoever on my end. There never was, there never has been, and there never will be. I also have absolutely no issue communicating clearly and effectively and healthfully, and this podcast is remarkably clear proof of that. I've written every word entirely myself with literally not even the slightest bit of help from anyone, and I mean it all, and I'm extremely clearly standing on that. If I had any difficulty communicating my feelings or thoughts maturely, healthfully, or effectively, this podcast either wouldn't exist at all or wouldn't be anything like what it is. There's really no actually even remotely good reason I could ever imagine for you not to directly contact me immediately, but I want to make sure I've been so remarkably meticulous about everything that I've even extremely clearly stated what immediately means exactly. I really don't want to leave any room for anyone to ever be able to successfully try to make it seem like I'm giving you an opportunity I don't want you to take. If I have this right this second or never kind of attitude, especially knowing you and your inclination to overthinking and anxiety and depression and drowning in self-pity and making excuses, you'll probably just act like you panicked and needed even just like a few hours or something to calm down and compose yourself, but you felt like it was too late by then even if you contact me. Maybe you'd feel ready in like a day or two after I release this, but you'd feel totally hopeless by then. And then you'll obviously try to blame me and make me look like the problem for making you feel that way. Instead of just getting angry at you for that, I'll do my best to be understanding. Understand that I'm not giving you some extremely rigid within the next few hours or you're doomed kind of deadline to directly communicate with me. As much as I feel it's quite ridiculous if you take more than a couple hours to directly contact me, I want to make sure I've demonstrated my integrity so extremely thoroughly that you have absolutely no even remotely good reason to believe you're hopeless if you don't feel ready to speak to me within the next couple hours. But understand very well what I'm telling you here. Everything I've said will forever apply. You'd damn well best believe you can't go and be pregnant right now. Wait until you can't get an abortion, and then talk to me and expect me to tolerate you trying to pass off some extremely warped narrative about me as if I wanted or validated that or will ever tolerate it. Putting something quite that extremely abusive and manipulative and controlling and toxic aside, don't try to use my lack of giving you some rigid deadline to directly communicate with me in the immediate future as some kind of invitation to attempt more abusive, toxic, vicious cycle garbage behavior, trying to keep me stuck like I've been describing, or just in general think that you can screw around with whatever extremely hurtful things you're doing right now, act like you're letting me go as if you're giving me what I want or deserve somehow, in doing so, despite me having objectively thoroughly proven otherwise is the case with this podcast how I have, and then see me starting to achieve professional success later against all the odds with my game dev and whatnot, and then try to apologize or come crying back to me or something, as if I was trying to push you away or owed it to someone to let you distance yourself, or you thought you were doing me some kind of favor or something, being extremely distant until you see some massive potential for selfish gain off my existence again. I seriously want to make sure you understand that I've been above and beyond to make sure you have absolutely no loopholes you can try to weasel your way through to try to justify remaining so unbelievably, unacceptably distant with me any longer and constantly betraying me extremely badly. I've talked about how if you don't make content for months, I'll be convinced it's because you're trying to hide pregnancy. But keep in mind that even if you make content but absolutely none of it is live, or the live content lacks a real-time camera view of you for any prolonged period of time, I'm also still going to assume you're trying to hide a pregnancy and just trying to be more clever about it, which really doesn't make it any less insulting or any more acceptable or tolerable to me in any way, literally no matter what your reasoning is. Also, I don't know or really care so much why exactly you might choose to move at any point in time, but understand that I don't benefit in any way from you moving as things are, and I was never trying to aim for getting you to move. It's not like I know where you live, so you have no good reason to be afraid I'll abuse that knowledge somehow. Overall, I want you to understand extremely clearly that it is, always has been, and always will be the case that I don't care to see you even leaving Los Angeles entirely, as if to open room for me to move into it without having to deal with being in close physical proximity to you. This situation will not be at all resolved by you trying to distance yourself physically from me as if you're being considerate or something. It doesn't matter whether or not you ever publicly admit to the reasoning being as such. You refusing to treat me properly here is something that I'll seriously never be able to forgive, forget, or move on from, and we're going to have a problem over it fundamentally, existentially, on the most extreme level, far more severe than you trying to distance yourself to try to leave room for me you perceive I might want in some space could ever solve, whether online or offline. Literally no matter how or when or why you might do it. You'd best believe and understand that we will never be only friends, or friends with benefits, or business partners, or co-workers, or anything like that. We're either first and foremost extremely serious lovers, which you have to extremely seriously properly embrace privately and publicly in a timely manner with the love and respect I deserve, or we're seriously the absolute worst of enemies in an extremely serious actual existential war to the literal death that I will actually make sure I get an extremely decisive, irrefutable victory against you in, literally no matter the cost. You've already clearly massively underestimated me, since you clearly didn't think I'd ever even be capable of getting as far as I already have. You probably thought I'd actually literally be physically deceased in real life by now. I'd extremely strongly suggest you don't make the same massive mistake again and doubt what I'm saying in this podcast, because it's seriously going to end extremely badly for you if you do. You can call that a warning or a threat or whatever the hell you want, but I'm telling you, it's just reality, not your schizo egomaniac delusion of what reality is. It's actual objective reality. You're seriously hallucinating if you think you can be so extremely abusive to me and then try to blackmail me with fabricated evidence of me being the problem, or tempt me with some kind of professional benefit, or endlessly dangle some potential prospect of being with you that you never actually take seriously. Even after many years and many, many times of dangling it in front of me and then pulling it away, there's no temptation or brute force you or anyone else can use to try to endlessly control me and force me to change who I am or how I choose to use my energy. And if you're seriously just going to keep trying and hallucinating that it's eventually going to work, well, I've already extremely clearly warned you it won't. If you're trying this hard to act like you're doing me a favor by rejecting me, then I'm pretty sure you're trying to justify it, at least in part, by some implication or feeling you have that you're not good enough for me, and I'm expressing anger out of wanting or deserving or being willing to tolerate someone that I or others perceive as a better or more worthy of being with me somehow. I want to make sure I've made it extremely clear that this is not, never has been, and never will be the case. You are good enough, Kimmy. You're literally the only person that could ever possibly exist that could ever be good enough to be with me. At least as far as I'll ever be concerned. And like I said, I'm not just saying that. You are the one I touch myself to for hours and fantasize about being with all the time for life. You and only you. If there was someone better, then I'd be touching myself to them and fantasizing about them so much, not you. Like, I could literally have all your friends and a bunch of even A-list celebrities and whoever else all suddenly come directly communicating with me and desperately begging to do whatever I want sexually and otherwise if I'd just reconsider my position and allow my integrity to be compromised somehow, and without even the slightest bit of doubts, regrets, second-guessing, or hesitation, I would extremely decisively, firmly refuse in a private and public capacity. I'm not joking, Kimmy. They could be crying, screaming, begging, threatening, whatever the hell they think they can do, and it all wouldn't ever make even the slightest difference, literally no matter what. Believe me, if anyone wants to test me, they can try and watch what happens. I absolutely unconditionally mean what I'm saying. I'm not saying this stuff to embarrass myself. Like I've said many times before, I'm neither sadistic nor masochistic, and I'm not any kind of exhibitionist or anything like that. I'd really prefer to keep any intense expressions of my affection towards you in just intimate moments between us in private. But I'm saying these things openly because you need to understand I'm fully consciously and intentionally doing the most to leave you with absolutely no real room to try to act like you're not good enough or I'm not serious about the feelings for you I've repeatedly said I have all these years. I'm not shy about it. I never have been, and I never will be. Even if you really want to stay distant and become enemies, I'm still never selling my soul, nor letting it get robbed from me. It really doesn't matter how rough my life circumstances are. As far as I'll ever be concerned, I can and will survive this regardless. I'm not shallow, short-sighted, greedy, confused, or cowardly. No amount of money, fame, or anything else is ever going to be worth losing my soul. I won't let it get robbed from me, and I won't sell it either. I can't be scared or bullied into giving up on myself. I've said this before many times. I'm not for sale, and I'm not a loser. Clearly, you and others have been withholding information from me for a long time. All kinds of different things. With how screwed up the situation is and how you seem so unbelievably carelessly ignorant of it, I refuse to believe you aren't withholding some kind of important information from me. I get this feeling that you're intentionally trying to agitate me so much because you desperately want to provoke me into starting drama in your Twitch chat or on your YouTube channels or in your GTA roleplaying, and you have some kind of deal you've made with someone that you're trying to warp that reaction you're trying to provoke out of me as if you've communicated with me behind the scenes about it and I'm in agreement with it, or something like that. And with how controlling and selfish you've been, I have no doubt such a deal would be one where you're trying to firmly establish some kind of long-term control over my life with that reaction you're trying so hard to provoke from me. Pretty much certainly something that's in reality extremely detrimental to my life. It's never happening, Kimmy. You're being delusional. It doesn't matter how badly you wish you could control me. You need to treat me actually fairly and stop trying to abusively force control over my life, or I will seriously destroy your life. I'm not putting up with this unacceptably extremely shady garbage. I'm seriously not desperate for money or fame or sex or anything else. And I'm seriously not trying to or willing to tolerate accepting any kind of help from you or anyone else that at all comes at a compromise to my integrity. I'm extremely clearly demonstrating in this podcast. If you really aren't going to communicate with me properly in a timely manner and start treating me properly, you're just doomed. No negotiation. You can't bait or manipulate or hurt me into selling my soul or being robbed of it. That's what I'm winning and ultimately going to decisively win this existential war being waged against me means, Kimmy. It doesn't mean I'm just looking for some prime opportunity to sell out. It doesn't mean you can keep hurting me and lying about me and trying to provoke me into anger until I get triggered into acting in some way that validates some lie you're saying to get to force control over my life or give up and end it all. It means I'm never selling out, literally no matter what, and I'm never getting destroyed or turned into a permanent tool for anyone as a result of my lack of desire or willingness to ever sell out either. I seriously don't care at all, even in the slightest, if you're crying your eyes out for hours every day and can't get out of bed and you're losing tons of sleep and feel like unaliving yourself or even actually do unalive yourself. If you'd seriously rather wallow in pity and be so extremely unbelievably weak and cowardly and pathetic and selfish, then take the proper actions you should be taking to take us both out of this misery. I genuinely have no pity or sympathy or mercy for you whatsoever. You literally have an extremely simple, free, fast, effective option you could solve so many problems in your life with right there from the comfort of your room, and instead of relieving the immense suffering from both of us that this distance will only increasingly cause, you're just thinking about yourself. You're just thinking about the fear and sadness and shame you feel. You're still more preoccupied about what your friends and family and fans and whoever the hell else will think or feel, instead of the reality of the situation you're in and how it makes me and you, the most important people by far in this situation, really feel deep inside. You're still trying to seek pity from others for sabotaging and hurting yourself so much instead of really caring that you're hurting me even more in the process. You're still trying to plot to throw yourself pity parties and disrespect me massively by trying to weasel your way out of things with more excuses and acting like you're doing me a favor somehow, instead of thinking about how much the distance you're insisting on is increasingly hurting me and making me seriously permanently lose all faith in humanity. Instead of thinking of how sad and angry and alone and disappointed I feel, that you're still choosing to push me away instead of properly embracing the connection between us that I've clearly always wanted. So, are you really sure you want to go down the extremely dark path and have your life brutally destroyed absolutely unconditionally? Or are you going to start showing me the love and respect I want and deserve in a timely manner? Time is ticking.